and action.
Hello again, JD here. So today I'm going to describe the use or show the use of this vintage caseback remover. So this caseback remover is made by A*F. I believe it's a French company, but I've asked some other folks to see what company this is. It's a fairly complex device. The bottom part of this remover has got it's got dies on it. Let me just move this up and out of the way a bit. There we go. It's got dies here, and these dies conform to various watch movements. And today I'm just going to brace a watch and show you how you would use this. So there's also, I've got a handful of dies and I've paired them off so they're close enough. What you do, I've cleaned this up. It was pretty dirty when I got it. And as you move this wheel here, these move together. So you've got threads that are opposing on both sides. I've oiled this as well. In the back here, you've got, using a screwdriver, you can also adjust these here, and there's a plate on the edge here that you can see, and that just squeezes these so they're either loose or tight, and so there's a sort of a comfortable amount of friction that you can have here. I actually unbolted this too, and I cleaned this all up, and I unscrewed this, pulled that out. So that's the bottom part of it. So you put the dies in, you measure them for the watch movement that you're going to be taking the case off of or tightening it on, and you put them in here. I got an odd watch movement here, a Seiko, a very old Seiko. It's got I can't remember the number, but it's something 7S26 or 7R26 movement in it. It's a 6309 7009 movement in there. So anyway, but it's an odd shape because this is squared, and actually none of these dies have a flat end of it for a square shape. And nowadays there wouldn't be that many that are square, but you can actually put it in like this, so the round part, and because the crown is actually tucked in, it actually doesn't touch the die. So we'll put that in a second. First thing I want to do though is show you the top part here. So this is spring loaded, so you can lower it down onto the movement and then spin this part. I oiled this, so there's a little bit of dirt there, and it's just oil grime on there because you want it to be able to slide. But you can set it like this onto the movement and then use this to do the fine adjustment as it squeezes down onto the indents on the back of the case. So I did unscrew this here with an Allen key. You actually use the same Allen key for everything in here to remove it, so which is great. But I did that, and then this head part released from the main shaft completely, and I was able to disassemble this completely. So what you do is you pick the right, these are not sure what to call those, but those are the tabs or dies or whatever as well that go into this movement here. So these actually feed up in, and these are what you would determine that you need to remove the watch. So in your typical watch remover, you'd have two, and you'd twist it like this. So it's the same sort of thing. If you have a Rolex, for example, these ones here conform to the knurling of a Rolex. So if you're going to open a Rolex, you'd have two of these, and that would allow you to open the back of a Rolex. But for now, this is pretty far from a Rolex, so we'll just use this. And a tab on the end is angled here, so I want that angle inward, so it grabs the movement in the back. So I slide that in here. This is a screw that just tightens that in place. So I've already got one in there, and you got to make sure it's all the way up. So you tighten one in place, and this one here, I'm gonna think it's loose. No, it's tight right now. So make sure that's all the way up. So that's step one in doing it. So these screws here ensure that when these, I gotta figure out what to call these, but these grabbing tabs here, when you set the right width on this thing, like this, with this wheel here, you screw that in or out to match the width. Once you've set the width, then you turn these here, and they snug against these metal dies. I'm sure someone will write and tell me what this is called, these are called, but anyway, you snug against there, and that way they don't spread out. So that way when you've got them in the watch, they won't accidentally spread out when you're turning. So that's all these are for. So I just leave those out for now until you put the watch movement in. So I'm going to put the watch movement in right now. Raise this up. So you do that to raise it up. like that. It's out of the way, and I put the movement in. I'm going to put it in like this because I've got round dies here. And again, like I said before, this is a kind of a strange case where the end is square, so I couldn't find a flat end die on the other side. Maybe you can buy those, but that's what you do there. So I've got that in place. Leave that fairly loose to start off with so that you can make sure these fit into the tabs properly. Then you're lowering the this here, so you spread it out like this, so you've got a good distance here, and then you lower it down onto the watch, and you get it as low as possible, and then move this ring here so it stays down like this. So you've got that lowered like that, so you can see that. And then I want to lower it again a bit more. I'll use my other hand here. My wife is a videographer, so she's probably thinking, get your hand out of the way. So I lower that, spread that out a bit because I want to make sure these fit into the tabs like so, and then lower that a little bit more like that. So that's now in place, as you can see. And then I want to tighten this because it's push up a bit, and that's good. And then tighten the tabs on the side so that they're snug. In this case, the watch movement's going to twist just a bit because of, again, it's flat here, and I'm using round dies on the end here. So, and then you also, these things here, these little screws here, ensure that these tabs are in tight. So I forgot to do this earlier, but you got to make sure they're in tight. There's posts on the bottom here, and these sink in like this, and the posts expose themselves to the screw, and then you tighten the screw, and there's knurling here as well, so you can do this by hand. You don't have to worry about it. So I've got a fairly decent fit here, and now what I'm going to do is tighten those tabs inward some more, so I know that they're grabbing the case. So if you see that, it's grabbing there, and then I want to lower that just a bit more until I get it tight. Okay, so that's good there. And now I'm going to tighten these screws here to make sure that there's no movement there. So I'm all set up to remove the back of the watch. So now the other thing is, when this case back is unscrewed, it actually rises up a bit, right? So it's kind of neat, but you've got to control this ring here, right, to make sure. And the threads allow the whole unit to rise up a bit, but only if this thread is secured, right? So as I turn this, and you can use one hand to turn it, and basically hold on to this, right? This ensures that the watch, I turned it just a little bit to give it some motion, right? To allow the thread to go up on the watch. See, it tightens. So you want to make sure that this is not too tight as you remove the watch. And so I believe it's now out. Yeah, it was, see how it raised up there? But the thread is now out, so the watch, the movement, did it slip in there a bit? Hang on a second. Let me go down again, do a little bit of adjusting here. Just move that over. I've got to move these out a bit because it's not allowing it to go out. This is called fine tuning, folks. There we go. And then turn this again like that. I believe that the case back is out. So yeah, I think that's out. So what I'll do here is raise this up now and out of the way like that. That comes out of the way, and then loosen this up like so, and then the case should come right off. And look at that, success. It's an old Seiko movement ticking away. So that's how you do it. And of course you just reverse the process to tighten the case. No big deal, but the big thing here is to keep an eye on this upper ring here as you turn it, because this case will rise up, and you've got to allow the space for it to rise up. But you don't want to allow it to rise up. You don't want this to go higher, because there is the possible chance that it might scratch the back of the case back here, and you don't want that to happen. If it lifts up and it's above this, there's a slight chance that it would scratch this. So you just have to keep an eye on that ring when you move it up. But it's an amazing device, spring-loaded. This thing feels like it weighs like 20 pounds. It's very hefty. And I'll just show these dies here. This is how the dies come out, like that, like this, and that's the rigging in here. And again, when I got this, it was very dirty, and I cleaned it up, and now it works perfectly. So that's a case back remover.
Why would you use that rather than another one?
Okay, my videographer asked me a question. I'll repeat it. Why would you use this rather than another one? So when you, as you know, when you use a typical case back remover, it's got these devices here, and it's you hold it in your hand and you twist like that, and you may have that inside of a case holder like this, and do this. And I've often done this, but you're under much more control, precision control, setting all this up and putting the case in, and then untightening that way. Sometimes you get a case that is so tight that it's almost impossible to open the darn thing up, because it's been tightened way too much, and you're getting the torque from here to here, so it doesn't take much effort to actually open a case. And when you're closing the case and you've got maybe it's a dive watch and you've got to put a ring on it and seal that nicely, doing that by hand is not recommended. You're not going to get the right torque on that to seal that correctly by hand, and there could be leaks in the watch by not using a device like this. So this ensures that you've got the right torque to release the case back, and the right torque to actually tighten the case back, so for waterproofing. So that's the answer to my videographer's question on that. I'm not sure if there's any more questions that you want to ask. No, I'm getting the thumb up. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoy my videos, and please subscribe to my channel.